A wise man is strong. Yes, a man of knowledge increases strength. For by wise counsel you will wage your own war. And in a multitude of counsellors there is safety. My name's Arthur, and I thank you for joining me as we share some thoughts based on Proverbs chapter 24, verses 5 and 6. Words of Solomon, which will lead us to thinking also about Abraham. So the issue Solomon raises here with respect to wisdom is the issue of war and the issue of being strong. A wise man is not a weak man. He might be a meek man, but he is not a weak man. Yes, a man of knowledge increases strength, for by wise counsel you will wage your own war, and in a multitude of counsellors there is safety. There are various things that are highlighted in these verses. First of all, the expression, you will wage your own war. We're not to be busybodies in other people's business, for we have enough troubles in our own lives. And the New Testament tells us we are to resist the devil and he will flee from us. That is, we are to resist those who would make us do evil and to do those things that are right. And so we have, and Paul, when he spoke to Timothy, used the image of a soldier and the commitment of a soldier, not getting entangled in civilian affairs, but seeking to please his master, the focus of the soldier. If the soldier is not focused, if he is not trained, if he is not committed, if he is not equipped, he is wasting his time being a soldier and will soon be dead. War is not simply a matter of fighting. It's fighting with wisdom and wise counsel. In the First World War, the British generals who commanded on the Western Front were thinking, we just need to send enough men over and they will overthrow the Germans. But so many British soldiers were being killed that the British Parliament was resisting that move. The Germans, with their artillery and machine guns, were just mowing down the soldiers. There were huge losses for no gain. There was no wisdom and thinking until the Australian General Monash took over the lead of Australian forces. And he took a very calculated approach, and consequently the war ended 6 months earlier than it would have under the thinking of the British generals. But he only became a general late in the war, after many Australians had died. By wise counsel you will wage your own war. We were engaged in that war because the empire was under attack. It was a world war. And Australians made a major contribution to that war, which other countries, except maybe France, have not appreciated because of their determination and the fact that they had grown up in Australia. They were not good on the protocol of saluting every general that walked past. The life that they had lived in Australia was a life of cooperation and of hard work and of sorting out your own problems, being resourceful. Whereas those who'd come from the British background, where there was a whole class system, the people who were on the bottom class just waited for instructions. And so there was no initiative. There was little progress made. By wise counsel you will wage your own war. It's not just a matter of wisdom, you also need the resources. Solomon is renowned for the army that he built up. This is worldly wisdom that he was following after, and despite the fact that the law of Moses said, he shall not multiply horses for himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt to multiply horses, neither shall he multiply wives for himself, lest his heart turn away, nor shall he greatly multiply silver and gold for himself. Yet he is famous for all of these things, and his wives did turn his heart away from the Lord. They made him strong politically in this world. Moses was not saying he shouldn't have an army, he shouldn't have wives, and he shouldn't have gold and silver. But the point is, trust must always be in God, not in the material things of the world. Indeed, all of the kings of Israel who were godly became strong militarily, so that they could stand against the enemy. Our enemy may simply be a philosophical enemy, but we need to be strong. We need to know the arguments against the false thinking that the world is foisting upon our society. As Paul said in Ephesians chapter 6, "My brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armour of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Therefore take up the whole armour of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand." And he then outlines the things that we are to put on. We need to be strong to resist the devil, because we know the truth. If we don't know the truth, then we can't be strong. And we're prepared to stand for the truth, having done all, to stand. And in a multitude of counsellors there is safety. We are not simply to act on our own, but we are to act in fellowship with others. Therefore, the Lord builds believers together in families called congregations or assemblies or churches. And the biblical pattern for a church is that there will be multiple elders, several people who are competent in the scriptures, who have a variety of backgrounds and experiences in the world, who discuss the matters that need to be addressed within the church and within the society, within their own lives. George Mueller, who's credited with building huge orphanages in his time, he didn't just do it alone. He did it in fellowship with several close counsellors. His goal was to meet the needs that was there, but not to promote himself, but to walk humbly with his God. With that attitude, he was given great success. I mentioned Abraham. Abraham is famous around the world because he was an extraordinary person. He was well educated, apparently a priest in Ur, but then he came to understand that there is a God in heaven who is stronger than the sun and the moon and the stars, that idolatry is foolishness, because the idol is less than the man that makes it, but the God of creation is greater than man. And so the Lord led him to leave Ur and come ultimately to Canaan, where he didn't have a possession, but God promised to give it to his descendants after 400 years. When his nephew Lot was taken by Chedorlaomer and his allies, along with the citizens and wealth of Sodom, Abraham went to rescue him, and we're told that he had 318 armed men of his own household. So he was obviously a very strong man in terms of possessions, and a whole community was focused on him. He had increased in knowledge. God had enabled him. But while God gives us opportunities, he doesn't make them happen unless we are also pursuing those things. But he didn't do it alone. He did it in council with 3 friends, Anna, Eshcol, and Mamre. These were also neighbours. Abraham would not have succeeded without his allies and without being prepared beforehand for the eventuality. He didn't have time after Lot was taken to build up an army. He was ready beforehand and gave God the glory that God had prepared him and that the attack was successful. A wise man is strong. Yes, a man of knowledge increases strength. For by wise counsel you will wage your own war, and in a multitude of counsellors there is safety. safety.